The Champions League is back again. We have reached the 8th and final match day in the UCL League phase, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you guys my predictions for the final match day in this year's UCL League phase. Last match day there were some crazy games. We saw so many crazy scorelines. We saw Atalanta, Barcelona, Real Madrid score 5 goals, and we also saw that crazy PSG versus Man City game, and I expect there to be more crazy games this week. In today's video I'm going to be predicting the scoreline for every single match, and if you guys agree with my predictions, remember to leave a comment down below. But if you disagree with my predictions, remember to leave your predictions in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. So without further ado, let's get right into these predictions. Starting off with the first match, I have Aston Villa against Celtic. This game is being played at Villa Park, and obviously throughout the season, as we've seen both in the Premier League and in the Champions League, Aston Villa are very strong at home. Now we have seen them struggle away, but at home, for a majority of the time, they do get the win. Celtic have been pretty good so far in this Champions League, and even if they do lose this game, they are guaranteed a spot in the next round. So for that reason, I think Villa will just edge it, and I think they're going to win 2-1. Moving on to the next game, we have Barcelona against Atalanta. This game, in my opinion, is going to be a crazy match. Obviously, in the last match day, we saw Atalanta beat Sturm Graz by 5 goals. But at the same time, we saw Barcelona get an incredible comeback against Benfica to beat them 5-4, also scoring 5 goals. I think this game really could go either way. Obviously, Barcelona are the favorites as they're playing at home. But in my opinion, Atalanta are a very strong team. They score so many goals, and obviously, they do want to get even higher up on that table. Because of the fact that Barcelona have already 100% qualified in the top 8, I think Atalanta will play very well in this game, and for that reason, I think this game will end in a 3-3 draw. Moving on to the next game, we have Bayer Leverkusen against Sparta Prague. Bayer Leverkusen were very disappointing in the last game against Atletico Madrid, where they scored first, Atletico Madrid were a man down, and Atletico Madrid still ended up winning that game. Honestly, Bayer Leverkusen just completely lost their heads in the second half, and it was not a good performance. But obviously, they are a very good team, and in this game against Sparta Prague with the home advantage, I think this will be a pretty comfortable win for them. I'm going to predict that Bayer Leverkusen win this game 3-0. Moving on to the next match, we have Bayern Munich against Slovan Bratislava. Bayern Munich were absolutely shocking in the last game against Feyenoord, where they completely dominated that game. They had 80% possession, they had 30 total shots, and they scored 0 goals. Meanwhile, Feyenoord ended up scoring 3 and winning that game. But obviously, Bayern Munich normally do perform much better than this. And in this game, I do think they will play very similarly. I think they will dominate possession, they will dominate the shots, but I do think they will finish their chances. And for that reason, I think Bayern Munich will smoke Slovan Bratislava 5-1. Moving on to the next match, we have Borussia Dortmund against Shakhtar Donetsk. Honestly, Borussia Dortmund started off this Champions League pretty good, and they were continuing their good Champions League form from last season. But in recent matches, both in the Bundesliga and in the Champions League, they have not been performing very well. Now, Borussia Dortmund did recently sack their manager, and at the time of recording this video, I'm not sure who they're going to hire. But I do think they have the quality to beat Shakhtar Donetsk. Even though they may be in disarray, they may be performing very poorly in recent games, I think they still have the quality to beat Shakhtar. I'm going to say that they win this game 2-1. The next game we got is Brest against Real Madrid. Brest started off this Champions League campaign very good, but in recent match days, they have not been performing as good. But they have secured their spot in the next round. So even though I think they will lose this game, they will be advancing. And even though Real Madrid are playing away, I think they will pretty comfortably win this game 3-1. Moving on to the next game, we have AC Milan against Dinamo Zagreb. AC Milan have been very inconsistent this season, both in the Serie A and in the Champions League, where, like I've already said many times, we see them play very good in some games, but in other games against lower level teams, we see them play very poorly. But even though I think Dinamo Zagreb could possibly come away with an upset, I think that AC Milan will end up winning this game. They played pretty good in the last match day, and in this game, I do think they will just edge it over Dinamo Zagreb. I think they're going to win 2-1. Moving on to the next match, we have Girona against Arsenal. In the last match day, Girona were coming up against AC Milan, and they did do pretty good in that game. It was only a 1-0 loss. Now, so far in this Champions League and in the La Liga, they haven't been as good as they were last season. but they still do have some quality players in that team. But in my opinion, I do think Arsenal will just edge it over Girona. I think it will be a similar result to the AC Milan versus Dinamo Zagreb game, and for that reason, I think Arsenal will just edge it 2-1. Moving on to the next game, we have Inter Milan against AS Monaco. Honestly, I think this is going to be a very close match. I feel like Inter Milan are the heavy favorites. Obviously, they do have the home advantage and they are a very strong team. But in my opinion, Monaco have been really underrated so far in this Champions League, and they have been doing surprisingly well. Monaco played amazing in the last match against Aston Villa, and even in some of the other games in this Champions League, they have been surprisingly good. But with the home advantage, I don't think they're going to be good enough to beat Inter Milan. In my opinion, Inter Milan are definitely a top 3 team in this Champions League. They're definitely one of the favorites to win, and for that reason, I think they're going to win this game 2-1. Moving on to the next game, we have Juventus against Benfica. Juventus have not been good this season. They have not been performing good offensively. Their attack has been so poor. All of their attackers, especially Dusan Vlahovic, has not been performing good this season. Now, yes, they may be defensively sound, but in the attack, they're really lacking some quality, and I think Thiago Motta is playing a big part in this. They played horribly away against Club Brugge and ended up finishing that game with a 0-0 draw. And in this game, even though they have the home advantage, I think it will end in another draw, and I think the scoreline will be 2-2. Moving on to the next match, we have Lille against Feyenoord. In my opinion, this game really could go either way. Feyenoord played very well in the game against Bayern Munich, and Lille, on the other hand, were coming up against Liverpool, but they did hold their weight. They didn't perform that badly, and they were actually a pretty good competitor against Liverpool. In my opinion, I think that Feyenoord are on better form, but with the home advantage, I think this game will end in a 1-1 draw. Moving on to the next game, we have a highly anticipated match between Manchester City and Club Brugge. Normally, I think that most people would say that Manchester City are the favorites and they're going to easily win this game 5-0. But in my opinion, with how Man City have been playing so far in this Champions League, I think Club Brugge could possibly get an upset in this game. Most people would say that Man City are the favorites, and I still think that they are the favorites. But I just think Club Brugge are going to perform much better than what they're expecting. I think Man City look tired, they look frustrated, they look out of ideas, and for that reason, I think this game is going to end in a 1-1 draw, and I think Man City will be knocked out of the Champions League. Moving on to the next game, we have PSV against Liverpool. PSV played very well in the last match day against Red Star Belgrade, where they ended up winning that game 3-2, but they almost let it slip at the end as they were up by 3 goals. And in this game against Liverpool, obviously, we all know how good Liverpool are. They're top of the Premier League, they're top of the Champions League, and they're still unbeaten. They are an incredible team. Even though Liverpool are away, I think they're going to win this game 3-1. Moving on to the next match, we have Salzburg against Atletico Madrid. I think that Atletico Madrid look really good, especially in the last few months. They have been playing much better than they were at the start of the season, and for that reason, I think they will win this game 4-1. Moving on to the next match, we have Sporting against Bologna. Sporting have not looked as good since Ruben Amorim left to go to Manchester United, because since he left, we've seen them lose multiple games. They've been drawing a lot of games in the Portuguese league, and especially in the last game against RB Leipzig, they did not perform that well. I think Bologna are starting to look much better in recent games, and I think they'll make it very tough for Sporting. But with the home advantage, I do think Sporting will just be able to beat Bologna. I think they're going to win 2-1. Moving on to the next match, we have Sturm Graz against RB Leipzig. Sturm Graz are another team that haven't looked good so far in this Champions League, as they've only gotten 3 points from the first 7. To be fair, RB Leipzig have also been really shit so far in this Champions League, and they only got their first win in the last match day against Sporting. But coming up against Sturm Graz, I think RB Leipzig definitely will win this game. I'm going to predict that RB Leipzig win this game 1-0. Moving on to the next match, we have Stuttgart against PSG. In my opinion, this is going to be a very ferocious game because both of these teams are fighting to make it to the next round, with PSG sitting in 22nd place and Stuttgart sitting in 24th place. Stuttgart do have the home advantage, and with all that support, I think they can definitely score multiple goals against PSG. But in my opinion, with how we saw PSG play against Manchester City, I don't think they're going to let that go to waste. I do think they will be able to win this game, and I think they're going to win 3-2. And finally, the last match in the UCL League phase is Young Boys against Red Star Belgrade. Honestly, I think Red Star Belgrade are definitely the better team, but Young Boys do have that home advantage, and for that reason, I'm going to predict that this game will end in a 2-2 draw. And that is the end of this video. That wraps up the first edition of the UCL League phase for the 2024-25 Champions League. If you guys agree with my predictions, remember to leave a comment down below. But again, if you disagree with my predictions and you think there might be a few upsets here and there that I didn't catch on to, remember to leave your predictions in the comments down below and I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. If you guys enjoyed this UCL League phase and you're excited to see more predictions for the playoff rounds and the knockout stages, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.